Derby Wars, racing's biggest contest site, is now even bigger with more than 200 games every day. Check out Survivor, Derby Wars' hottest new game. It's fun, easy to play, and for just $4 you could win $1,000. Just pick a horse to finish first, second, or third and advance to the next race. With daily payouts and games starting every hour, you'll see why fans are racing to play Survivor. Go to DerbyWars.com now, use promo code Survivor to get 5 free Survivor games with your first deposit.
Welcome to another edition of HorseCenter, everyone. I am Brian Zipsey, and as always, I have the great pleasure of being joined by my co-host to the East Coast. That's Matt Schiffman.
Hi, Brian. How are you? Let's talk about the Preakness. How about we make believe we're in the infield at the Preakness for this show?
Good. What, should I get drunk real quick? I don't have time. It's always good to see you, Matt. Yeah, and not everybody is, folks, not everybody is drunk in the infield at the Preakness. I apologize. A lot of them are. All right, Matt. Hey, we're going to break down the Preakness. Like you said, we're going to analyze this field. We're looking at about a draw in 24 hours, but we are fully expecting to see 11 horses entered in the middle jewel Preakness Stakes number 141, headed by Nyquist. But, Matt, we're going to do this alphabetically. We're going to start from the top, and the top is a Biting Star. No one knows this horse, but he's on a pretty big win streak.
He is. I think this horse has 5 wins in a row, with his most recent being in the Parks Derby. But the question mark with this horse is the quarantine going to be lifted at Parks to allow horses to ship out of there? They still don't know the answer.
Yeah, that's true. We're waiting to find out for sure if a Biting Star can make the race. We think that he probably will. If he's in, Matt, he is speed. He's wired all 5 of those in a row. He was going nowhere fast, got dropped down to maiden claiming. Ever since then, he's been a speed monster. He adds to the pace of the Preakness.
The pace of the Preakness, which is going to probably be pretty significant as we go down the list of potential runners. I think we're going to be saying speed, speed, speed a number of times.
7 out of 11, perhaps, Matt. Hey, does this horse have any shot in this year's Preakness?
New shooter. No, I don't think so.
I can't see him sticking around either, Matt. He's on a roll. He's hot. Sloppy track. He has run well on a wet track before. Never, ever say never. But neither Matt and I like his chances to stick around as one of 7 potential horses on or near this early Preakness lead. Next on our alphabetical list, Matt, is Awesome Speed, perhaps coming in with a little bit more class, proven class than a Biting Star.
Yep, but another horse that we'll probably put on our list of horses that like to be on or near the lead. And Awesome Speed was flattered by the result of the Peter Pan, because in Awesome Speed's last race, he battled with Governor Malibu and ended up getting placed in first place when Governor Malibu was moved down. But Governor Malibu ran a big closing race in the Peter Pan, and that flatters Awesome Speed.
It does flatter Awesome Speed, Matt. I was about to say the same thing. Awesome Speed has run 5 consecutive good races, or at least 4 out of the 5 are good races. Now, the only time he wasn't a winner, or at least an adjudged winner, was in the Fountain of Youth. That probably is his most classy race, though. That's when Mohamed beat him. He had a bit of a rough trip that day to be a well-beaten 4th. Yeah, I liked what I saw from Governor Malibu quite a bit in the Peter Pan, and he was the one battling and bumping with Awesome Speed down the stretch of the Pimlico Prep there, which is, of course, the Federico Tessio. Maybe Awesome Speed and Governor Malibu are just a little bit better than we thought.
Yeah, no doubt about that, and I think Awesome Speed maybe certainly has a little bit of a class edge over a Biting Star. Again, he's going to be a factor in the early going of the Preakness.
Yeah, he did almost wire the Federico Tessio. Of course, he got beaten in the photo before getting put up. Now, we're talking about speed, 7 speed horses. I think Awesome Speed might be One of the least likely of the 7 to be on the early lead, though. I think a few others have more pace, but certainly, folks, he wants to be near the early lead. Also, Matt, we're talking about a wet track, or at least a good possibility of the wet track with the rain expected in Pimlico this week.
Yep, all the forecasts right now are saying a high percentage chance of rain, and it sounded like rain most of the day, not a chance of rain at post time like happened a couple weeks ago at the Derby when the Derby escaped wet track.
Okay, so Awesome Speed doesn't have a lot of wet track experience. I don't know if the breeding necessarily screams mud either. So, but we're going to mention these horses and their potential on a wet track. Speaking of that, the next horse on our list is Cherry Wine, Matt. Cherry Wine, I think, turned the corner and has run several good races in a row. He's a rallier, the first rallier we're going to talk about, coming out of a pretty good performance in the Bluegrass. But of course, he broke his maiden by a long way on a sloppy track.
Yeah, the rain certainly doesn't do anything to hurt the credentials of Cherry Wine. And like you said, Brian, he ran a big race in the Bluegrass when he finished third. And remember, just barely second when my man Sam came flying by to nip him at the wire for the second place finish. Again, you know, is he going to beat Nyquist? Is he going to beat Exaggerator? That's the question that is with all of these new shooters. But, you know, in terms of the new shooters, I like Cherry Wine. I like the setup for Cherry Wine. I think this one has a chance of getting a piece at the end.
Yeah, I do too, Matt. If we're talking about win, maybe even place, I'm not crazy for Cherry Wine. But if we're talking about 7 horses on or near the lead, perhaps a wet track doesn't hurt him at all. The horse that's going to be rallying, or one of the horses that's going to be rallying, and I think he's gotten pretty good, is Cherry Wine. So I do kind of like him as a longer shot to finish third or fourth in the bottom of your exotics. It should be noted that the 2 horses that beat him in the Bluegrass, I think all 3 ran well on Bluegrass Day. We're talking about Brody's Cause, My Man Sam, as you mentioned, and Cherry Wine. Brody's Cause and My Man Sam certainly didn't run bad races in the Derby, but on the other hand, they really didn't threaten the winner at all. So maybe that doesn't flatter Cherry Wine quite so much.
Yeah, I mean, but as you and I were just saying, maybe a third or a fourth is a likely finish for Cherry Wine.
Agreed. Next on the list, Matt, is Collected, and Collected has also run a bunch of good races in a row. He's won 3 stakes in his last 4 races. Last one was easy in the Lexington Stakes at Keeneland, another horse with early pace.
Yep, coming up out of the barn of Bob Baffert, one of Baffert's speedy horses. Before the Lexington, it was the race at Sunland Park where he just blitzed that field. He's going to be out there running, got some speed, got a little bit of class to go with his speed. So it's going to be interesting to see coming around the turn down the stretch what a horse like Collected has left.
Yeah, for me too, Matt. I like this horse Collected. I like his breeding, actually. He doesn't have a lot of sloppy track experience, but I like his breeding as a grandson of Carson City to be able to handle a wet track. Unfortunately, I see him as a horse that we see so many years as 3-year-olds. They come along and they do really well in the summer as second flighters. I'm thinking of another Baffert horse perhaps last year in Gimme to Loot. Collected, I think, is just a notch below, and I think it's going to be hard for him to beat off all the other talented speed horses in here. Let's jump to the surefire second choice, second place in the Kentucky Derby. We know Exaggerator can take to the mud. Matt, what do you think? Is Exaggerator going to be your top pick in this Preakness?
Exaggerator is going to be my top number 2 pick in the Preakness, Brian Zipsy. You know, and I kind of like what Keith DeSormo has been saying since the Derby when he said, hey, I'm going to keep slugging it out with Nyquist because you know what? There's nothing wrong with being the second best 3-year-old in the country. Not when you're behind a horse like Nyquist that's unbeaten, champion last year, winning everything. Exaggerators piling up some pretty good money, some pretty good purse money in second place. And hey, you never know what could happen. But as I said, he's my second choice.
Matt, you know what DeSormo means when he says, I don't mind to continually run second. He's run second to Nyquist 6 times with his classy pair of Swipe last year and now Exaggerator mostly this year. He means one of these days I'm going to get that son of a gun. And I think they have a shot in the Preakness. I do think that he has a shot. I certainly think he has the best shot of any of the other to beat Nyquist. Exaggerator, if you look at the speed figures, if you look at his mud form, if you look at his recent form, if you look at the fact that this race is setting up with quite a bit of early pace, a lot of it points to Exaggerator having a shot. Now, if you believe Nyquist is beatable in the Preakness, every horse is beatable, but if you believe there's a good chance that Nyquist could get beat at 3 to 5 or so, I think Exaggerator is the one. You know me, Matt, I love to pick out some long shots here, but yeah, Exaggerator, I'm with you. Second choice, a strong second choice, but only second best off everything we've seen so far. All right, Matt, we're going to jump down to the Fs, and that's Fellowship. Fellowship ran fourth in the Pat Day Mile after running a series of thirds at Gulfstream Park.
Yep, and horse that has been in the pretty hot Mark Casse barn for not too long. Recently went into the Casse barn from the Florida barn of Stanley Gold, and he ran a pretty good race in the Pat Day, a nice closing race, and again, a horse who's I think is going to benefit from the speed duel, going to be sitting behind it, making a move, and I like this horse coming down the stretch also.
Yeah, he's a little horse that keeps on trying. I wouldn't worry too much about the Pat Day Mile performance. I do like Cherry Wine a little bit better. If it's a wet track, I think I like Cherry Wine even that much better than Fellowship. He is a cut below, but like I said, he keeps trying. He's possible certainly to rally into the bottom half of the exotics here, but I think that's about it. I'm not high on Fellowship. Of the long shot ralliers, I think I like Cherry Wine definitely better. Speaking of another horse that's going to be off the pace, we'll do another one in Lani, the Japanese Dubai Derby winner, UAE Derby winner. Matt, all things considered, he got off to a slow start. He went quite a bit wide on the far turn of the Kentucky Derby. All things considered, his performance wasn't all that bad.
Yeah, it absolutely wasn't. The things that you said, Brian, plus the fact that he was wackadoodle before the race, trouble in the paddock. They brought him out early onto the track, and he kind of hid over in the back stretch for quite a bit of the warm-up time. And taking that all into consideration, he ran credibly. Again, another horse that's going to benefit from all this early pace and will be making a closing move.
Yeah, I would suspect he would be off the early pace. He's not one of the 7 we mentioned. Still, though, it's hard to know how good he is. I think there were some positive signs in the Derby, but then again, certainly no threat to the top 2. Maybe I like him a little bit better in Fellowship off his Derby run. Maybe I think Cherry Wine has a little bit more potential, especially if the track is sloppy. He does have some wet track experience over in Japan. It's not super experience where he wasn't winning these wet races, but he wasn't running poorly either. A possibility to get in, a possibility to get into the superfectas, a possibility to improve, certainly on his 9th place finish in the Derby. But again, I'm going Cherry Wine a little bit better of those long shot ralliers. Next, Matt, we have a horse who has never won a race, and that, of course, is Eric Yo's Lauban, coming off also the Bluegrass where he was 4th.
Yeah, for a horse that's never won a race, he's going to be a major factor in this race because no question what he's going to be doing. He's going to be gunning for the lead. He's got the speed to amp up this early pace to a level that's going to be really, really significant. And we've seen him hang on reasonably in all of these big stakes races that he has run in which he has yet to get a win.
Yeah, Matt, he's a maiden, but I actually think he's a very nice horse. He's still lightly raced. Collected beat him in the Sham. He ran a very good Gotham to be 2nd. And even in the Bluegrass, the only horses that went by him were horses that were way back early. Lauban was clearly the best of the pace of the Bluegrass. I'm with you. I think he's one of the most likely horses to be on the early lead. As one of many sons of Uncle Mo in the race, I suspect that he could take to a wet track. There's some things to like in here. 7 speed horses, Nyquist included. it's just hard to imagine him doing better than fourth or so, though, having said all that.
Yeah, no question about it, Brian. I think it's entirely possible for him to be able to dispatch most of these other speed horses that we're talking about and hang on for third or possibly.
Agreed. We're not going to say that about the next horse, folks. The next horse is the undefeated champion, 8-for-8 Kentucky Derby winner, 2-year-old champion, Nyquist. He just keeps doing it, Matt. Is there any reason to expect any less in Saturday's Preakness for Nyquist?
I don't think there is, Brian. The wet track always throws a monkey wrench into races, but I don't see it. I see once again Mario getting him smartly out of the gate, braking alertly, and this time they're just going to let that speed go. They're going to settle maybe what's going to appear to be a little bit farther behind than usual just because of all the speed in there. So Nyquist fans, when the race is happening, don't get alarmed that you think that he's not running, because he could be a little farther back than usual. But once they get 3/4 of a mile, those horses are going to start coming back, and Nyquist will be making his usual determined, strong move down the stretch.
Yeah, Matt, I agree. Nyquist is the best horse of this crop. It sure seems that way. Exaggerator looks really good as a number 2, but Nyquist certainly is the number 1. I'm going to throw out a couple scenarios, though, where, folks, I think he could be beaten. I'm not saying he's going to get beaten, but these things would scare me. As a son of Uncle Mo, I think he likes a wet track. He has some mud breeding in there. The only time he had a wet track really was the Florida Derby, which was not real wet. Maybe he's down on the rail with a lot of speed and he has some traffic trouble. Maybe that happens where Nyquist is trapped for a little while and Exaggerator has a full head of steam on the far turn. I think that could be a scary situation for fans of Nyquist.
Yeah, that's, tough trip can always be a factor. And like you said, if Exaggerator gets a smooth trip, we know he's going to be coming.
Yeah, he's going to be coming, but we like Nyquist best. Next horse is an interesting horse, Matt. It's Stradivari, of course. Stradivari, after a so-so debut performance last year, has rattled off 2 huge wins in a row, one late last year and one this spring at Lexington. His name is Stradivari. He's the son of Mondagliadoro. And you talked to his trainer, Todd Pletcher, just the other day.
I did. I talked to Todd on Peter Pan Day in the morning at his barn. And folks, this is not a shameless plug, but if you haven't had a chance, check out the interview on Horse Racing Nation, because you can really get some insight into the career of Stradivari, who would finish 4th as a maiden. And as Todd said, he wasn't ready to run that day. And when he was ready, you got to see the real Stradivari. They've been training the horse to come from off the pace. I see Stradivari running a very similar kind of race as Nyquist will. They're going to let the speed go, they're going to drop back, and Stradivari is going to make his move. Pletcher admitted it, and he's not crazy. He said this is a huge step up for the horse, but they think his horse is really talented. So this is Stradivari is a horse that I would be using to finish 3rd in the race, maybe 2nd. Who knows?
Yeah, the only problem with that going in as a gambler, Matt, is I think he's the clear 3rd choice now. I think we're talking 3 to 5 possibly on the favorite Nyquist, maybe 3 or 4 to 1 on Exaggerator. And don't be surprised if Stradivari floats all the way down to 6, 7 to 1 in here as a clear 3rd choice. His 2 wins are so impressive. And when Matt says taken back a little bit, folks, we're not talking about too far back. Nyquist and Stradivari, maybe we're talking 4 or 5 lengths off the early lead, and which could be, as we talked about, an early lead. Matt, I certainly think he could be the 3rd most talented, or maybe he's on a par with Nyquist and Exaggerator. Maybe he's that talented, but I think it's a lot to ask of him to come into the Preakness with only his 2nd race of the year, his 1st stakes race of his life, his 4th race of his life. It's a hard ask. I wouldn't be surprised if he runs well from a stalking position and finishes 3rd. That would be probably a favorite trifecta then. Finally, Matt, we go to probably an underrated, the fourth son of Uncle Mo. Uncle Lino, Nyquist, Laoban, and a star are all sons of first crop sire Uncle Mo. Pretty unbelievable what he's been able to do in his first crop. Uncle Lino is a nice horse. He's run a bunch of good races. He continues to surprise people in California. He's coming off a career best fig. Any chance in the Preakness, Matt?
I think he's going to be in that early mix, and I don't like him much in here. I know he won a minor stake out in California in his last start, but when he was running against the big boys, when he was running against even more Spirit for that matter, he couldn't beat them, and certainly more Spirit's performance in the Derby did not flatter Uncle Lino. So I see him in the mix with the early horses, and then he's not one of the ones I like at the end.
Fair enough. I'm going to agree with you, Matt. I will say he has some good wet track form, and I will say that he is maybe with Laoban one of the most likely horses to be on the early lead. So he should impact the race in at least that way. All right, folks, that's our 1 through 11. That's the Preakness Stakes that we expect to be drawn tomorrow. I like Nyquist over Exaggerator. Matt?
I like Nyquist over Exaggerator. It's a tough race for either one of us to give out much betting advice because, like Brian said earlier, they're the two likely top two finishers. They're going to be bet heavily, and so it's going to be a Preakness to enjoy. I don't even see playing the trifecta to be particularly productive because it's going to have to be Nyquist, Exaggerator, and then maybe a few others. If you want to use the Preakness in multi-race wagers, that's a different story.
Yeah, Matt and I are agreed. I always look for the value, but I don't see a whole lot of value. Trifectas may be the way to go in here. If you try to beat Nyquist and or Exaggerator, more power to you. Good luck with that. It could happen, but I'm not betting on it. All right, Matt, that's our Preakness preview. I think you did a good job with this one, but let's talk about Belmont. There were several graded stakes at Belmont on Saturday. Unified is still undefeated, 3 for 3, and a pretty fast winner of the Peter Pan.
Yeah, and kudos to Unified. He did things that he hadn't done before. Significantly greater distance. He went 1 1/8 miles. His longest effort before was 7 furlongs, and he came from off the pace. So nice race for a third start for Unified. I think he was getting a little tired down the stretch, and his trainer Jimmy Jerkins, I think, and his rider Jose Ortiz after the race, they both seemed to be making it pretty clear that this was probably at the edge of his distance limits. And although Jerkins said the Belmont Stakes is improbable but not impossible, I probably don't see him running in the Belmont Stakes. I might look for him more likely in the Woody Stevens on the Belmont Stakes undercard.
Well, I would like to see this horse as kind of a Haskell horse. I was impressed with him more than either of his first two impressive races. The fact that he was able to come from just off the pace, not far, but he led a few other horses out there. That was nice. Fast time. Governor Malibu came at him. Very good performance from both. I think Unified, I'm more excited about Unified than ever after this race, but I agree, not for the Belmont, not for 12 furlongs, not at this time. Wake Forest is another horse I was impressed with Saturday at Belmont. Wake Forest is a horse I've been following since he came over from Europe, the German bred. It's gotten better with each start. Arlington Million, and then to the Pan American, and now the winner of the Man of War, the Grade 1 Man of War, in which he was blocked much of the way. But when he got out, oh boy, did he get out.
Yeah, he certainly did. And going into the Man of War, Chad Brown was holding an awful lot of cards, and they played out pretty darn well when he took the first two spots in the Man of War.
Yeah, Wake Forest is a good one. We will definitely look for more from him in the future, as well as many Chad Brown turf horses. And then finally, another impressive performance, Cavorting. Cavorting has been sprinting for a long time. She stretched out to a mile, a one-turn mile, but she throws her hat in as another big contender in what's looking like a great Grade 1 Ogden Phipps on Belmont Stakes Day.
Yes, certainly. Kieran McLaughlin had that horse ready for Stone Street Farm, and she just blew that field away. Terrific stretch run, opening up all the way down the stretch.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they take her away from sprints now and try to get her in those mile and eighth races, because she, after the Ruffian, you'd have to say she fits in a very stacked division. All of a sudden, these older fillies and mares have been running big races of late, and she fits in with them. So we look forward to Beholder and the Vanity Mile. We look forward to Cavorting and several other good ones in the Ogden Phipps, and that's Belmont Stakes Day. Matt, another great HorseCenter. Thanks for joining me.
My pleasure, Brian. I hope you enjoy the Preakness this weekend. And as always, thank you to our star producer, Ember Marr.
Ember Marr, she does a great job. Folks, and always remember, we're brought to you by Derby Wars, the best contest site in the business. We will be back next week. We're going to talk about the Preakness, get an early look at the Belmont Stakes, maybe talking another potential Triple Crown winner here. That's exciting. Thanks, Matt, and thank you for all watching. We'll see you next week.